In this video, we're going to talk about how to actually make gold in New World with gathering. Now with these tips, you can double the amount of gold you get. That's not clickbait, that's for real. However, there is no real secret sauce here. There's no revolutionary thing that I will be showing that nobody else has ever talked about. But I just wanted to give a quick overview of all the things that will increase your yield when gathering. Before I do that though, if you want to support me growing the channel, becoming a YouTube member is really the best way to do so. So the first thing I want to talk about is the yield that you get from your attributes. If you are expecting 250 of any one stat, you will get a yield bonus of a corresponding profession. So for strength, it's a 10% increase in mining. For dexterity, it's a 10% increase in skinning. For intelligence, it's a 10% increase in harvesting. For focus, it's actually a 10% increase to the caught fish size. And for constitution, it increases your logging by 10%. Very simple. If you're going out on a gathering session, then you want to make sure you're spec'd appropriately. If you're gathering multiple different things, then obviously that's going to prove difficult. So you just pick the one that you're mainly concentrating in and spec to 250. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is your tools. I'm a bit of a tool, but let's show you mine. Now, ideally here, you would have gear score 600 tools with all the juicy good stuff, right? But it's actually quite expensive to get that, and depending on how much gathering you do, it may or may not be worth for you. But I definitely recommend getting as close to gear score 600 as you can, because if you have something like here, I have skinning yield, that percentage actually is affected by gear score, and it can go up to, I think it goes up to 19.1. I'm guessing at 595, maybe I'm just at 19 dead, right? But basically having 20% on your tool is very important, and you want to make sure you've got that. Yes, luck is also quite nice, and you know what else is quite good? With the legendary ones, you can get something called Malt Alignment, and I'll show you what I mean. So the cheapest tool on my server right now that has yield as well as being legendary 600 is this one, and you can see it's 15,000 gold, right? So if you did that for all of your tools, you can see how that's going to add up. But what's important is see how this one, it has skinning yield, but it also has something there called water alignment. So when you gather a node, you have a chance of getting water molts with this one, but obviously it can be any kind of molt. Now a popular alignment to have is either air or soul, and that's because of the next thing we're going to talk about when it comes to proficiency potions. But just showing you how much a soul alignment tool on my server costs is 27 gold. So you can see if you're only doing a little bit of farming, then it's possibly not worth. If you're going to go out and do a lot, then yeah, maybe you want to look into either crafting your own tools or buying them. And the next thing I want to talk about is the proficiency potions, basically the core proficiency boosters here. And to craft the most powerful one, it requires Earth Quintessence and Soul Quintessence, hence why having those as being molts that you get while gathering basically means you might get 3 powerful proficiency potions, which is quite nice because it gives you a 15% extra yield for 30 minutes. Now there are lower tier versions of these, but for example this one is 10% for 20 minutes, this one is 7% for 15, 5% for 10. Now the one main problem is cost here, right? So let's check how much these cost. So on my server right now, the powerful proficiency booster potions are going for about 200 gold. So 200 gold for 30 minutes, you need to make sure that when you pop this, you're going to farm enough to get the materials back, the extra 15% back. Otherwise, it's not really worth it, right? But definitely something you should probably have. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is the music profession. So at level 100, you unlock something called Fortune's Favor, which increases your yield when gathering. Now, I'm not music 100 because I'm very lazy and I find music very annoying, but it's definitely a buff you want to be getting. The yield bonus actually depends on how well the song is performed. For example, a 1-star is just 3% yield, whereas a 4-star is a 10% yield buff for 60 minutes. So definitely something you want to do. Now, if you don't have music like I don't have it, I'm going to ask around in Everfall and hope somebody will give it to me. Okay, I've asked around, nobody at the minute is responding. It's sort of off-peak time in EU at the minute, so it sort of makes sense that maybe I can't get it. However, that would imply that if you really want this one, you probably are going to want to level music to 100 yourself and then get it that way. Somebody did manage to give me territorial standing, but that's, you know, really not what I wanted. Now, for the next ones, you don't really have as much control over it. All the previous ones you can do yourself. Going forward, you're likely dependent on other people. So the first one of that kind is having the faction bonus of that territory. What I mean by that is if you gather in a territory that is owned by your faction, you get a bonus. And then one of those bonuses is to the yield. Now I'll show you here saying Cutlass Keys. I'll go to character and then I just quickly go to bio and then I'll go to Cutlass Keys. You can see because I'm Syndicate and Syndicate own this territory, just by me being in that faction, if I'm in that zone, I get 10% extra to my gathering. What that means is ideally that you want to be gathering in territories that your faction own. I appreciate that doesn't apply to the neutral zones because obviously that doesn't matter. And the reality is you don't have much control over who owns what territory. You're not going to be swapping factions just to do this. But for me, if I was trying to gather right now, my 3 best areas would be Ebonscale, Cutlass Keys, and First Light. Maybe I go get some Rawhide and Cutlass Keys or something. The next thing is sort of similar, except it's the town board missions and the town board upgrades that matter. And for this one, you need to have a house in that territory. For example, I currently have a house in Ebonscale Reach, and the people who own that territory have set off the town project Miners Resolve. Now that's going to give me a yield bonus of 20% until that timer runs out. Now if I didn't have a house in Ebonscale Reach, I don't get that bonus, and that bonus is worldwide, I believe. So the fact that it's up means I can go and mine anywhere and I'll get that 20% bonus. But I also have a house in Everfall, and there they don't have any of these buffs, so I'm not gaining anything from that right now. If you want to see what buffs are available, you can literally just come to a town territory planning board. We can click on lifestyle and you can see the buffs available. Now I can't do anything with this because it's dependent on the company that owns that territory, but you can see there's 4 different buffs. There's a logging one, harvesting, mining, and skinning, and it's all 20%. Now what some people do is that they have one house that they move to the territory where they have the buff that they want, and you can check what territory buffs are up, because if you come back to here, and I'll go back to lifestyle, we can see it here, you can see the ones that are grayed out are the ones that are currently up. So if for example you wanted logging, you would go and try and find a territory where lumberjack spirit was up, and you then move your house there, you get that buff. It's a little bit awkward because to buy the house is 5,000 gold. However, when you sell the house, I'm pretty sure you get 50% back at this point. So really it's going to cost you 2,500 gold each time you move your house. Are you going to gather enough to get that gold back with that 20%? That's a conversation that I leave to you. I personally don't gather enough to really bother moving my house, but some people do, and for them it's worth doing. Now this next one might technically be somewhat in your control, but not really, because it will depend on other people. If we go to the map and we have a look at the fort bonus for Brimstone Sands, actually held by Syndicate right now, so I am actually getting this, and we can see that one of the faction bonuses is it's gathering quantity by 10%. So if your faction owns this fort, you get a yield bonus of 10%. Now I believe that 10% is sort of done at the end. I'm not a mathematician, I can't really check this, but basically I think all the initial percentages are done beforehand, and then this is 10% of all of that, which makes this one really strong. However, don't quote me on that, I might not be right. But as I said, it is sort of dependent on other people. Yes, I could maybe go and claim that fort, but then let's say I go out gathering, I take my proficiency potions, I get my music buff, and then somebody claims it back. Am I really going to want to go and PvP to try and get it back? It's going to sort of hinder my gathering. So it's in your control, sort of, but not really. And if you have all of these buffs, including this one, you will get very close to 200% yield, and that can be very strong. Now I wanted to make this video because you'll see in some videos, like even my own, where I might be like, you can get 10,000 thick hide in this one spot, and then you go there and you get nowhere near it, and you're like, what's going on? Why? The spot's not as good as I thought. Well, the reality is all the hardcore gatherers are using all of these yield buffs. So if in a spot you were getting 5k thick hide, well now you're going to get 10k, and that makes a big difference. It's literally doubling your profits. Now you hardcore gatherers probably knew all about these. This video isn't really aimed at you. For me personally, I just try to get as many as I can that I'm in control of. I'm probably going to have to level my music up to 100, even though it pains me dearly, because I'm going to find it so boring to level. But you got to do what you got to do, and you do what you want to do. If you found this video helpful and you want to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is truly the best way to help me grow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.